Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Happy Tuesday. I hope your week is off to a great start. This is going to be one of my weekly astro musing videos. I want to talk to you guys about this ongoing conjunction between Venus and Juno in the sign of Leo, and why this is so significant for relationships in this next month and really activating lots of opportunity for karmic relationship connections. I hope you guys are doing well. All right, so basically, in honor of cuffing season beginning now in September, everybody's kind of looking for booze and relationships and wanting to know when they're going to meet somebody, when somebody significant is coming in, or how to navigate the aftermath of this Venus retrograde. I wanted to talk to you guys about the significance of this month-long conjunction where Venus and Juno are doing this dance where they're just following each other side by side through the sign of Leo. Now, many of you guys may or may not know, but in astrology, there's really only two wives within the mythological kind of context. One is obviously Aphrodite, also known as Venus, and the other is Juno. Now, Juno in astrology, she was married to Jupiter, so she is technically the queen of all of the gods if Jupiter was the king. And her symbol is a peacock. So peacock feathers. It was considered to be very sacred to Juno and often associated with her, both in art as well as in mythology. And Juno is frequently depicted with this bird by her side. And part of it is because the peacock symbolizes her regal and proud nature. It was actually her favorite bird. So the myth goes, she stole, I guess it was like 100 eyes from a giant and gave it to the peacock. It also had connection to Juno's intuition, which she had to kind of tap into pretty regularly to kind of follow her hunches in terms of what Jupiter was up to, because we all know he was not the most faithful of all of the gods. Anyway, why is this important? Well, you might be looking for Juno's symbols in the sky or maybe in art, or it could be something that you can also offer to Juno as kind of like an offering to kind of help you with relationship challenges, or maybe as an offering to meet somebody new. Now, Juno in general is associated with commitment as well as marriage. Because she's one of the main asteroids used in astrology, she's associated with committed partnerships, marriage, and long-term commitments. And she represents like a deeper, more serious aspect of relationships, where Venus is more social connections, pleasure, sometimes indulgence, sometimes flings. Juno really focuses on like the long-term goal when it comes to a relationship and a commitment. But she also represents the balance of power within partnerships. That's very much what Juno is associated with. It's also about how you handle issues of equality, fairness, and shared responsibility in relationships, which is going to be a huge theme with the ongoing square between Jupiter as well as Juno and Venus. We've seen that throughout this particular Venus retrograde. Venus has made several squares to Jupiter where maybe we have felt like some love and relationship situations are out of control. Well, Juno coming in is here on the back end of the retrograde shadow to help kind of find that balance in relationships and, creating space for fairness and equality. But in my personal practice, I've always seen really significant Juno and Venus transits happening at times where people meet very significant partners, long-term relationships, as well as business partners, and soulmates. I think there's a huge connection with Juno and soulmates. And in some interpretations, Juno is linked to the idea of soulmates or the person that you're destined to marry. So likely your Juno placement can reveal the qualities that you might seek in a long-term partner and the dynamics that you're likely to encounter in committed relationships. But in transit, we can take a look at Juno getting activated with the conjunctions with Venus, really indicating that we are now at the tail end of this Venus retrograde portal. Maybe there's been shakeups and breakups, but most likely I think it's connected to preparing us for the people who we're meant to meet, meant to work with, meant to partner with. So I think that this is a very significant time over the next month because of this conjunction between Venus, the South Node ruler, and Juno, which is about partnerships. Now we're also coming into eclipse season in just about a month's time, so that's going to kind of put further emphasis as we get closer to the solar eclipse in Libra. Transits to the South Node in Libra, so there's definitely some relationship karma that's kind of playing out for all of us collectively. But also what I like about Juno is that she's considered to be the guardian of women. She was considered the guardian of women, particularly married women. She protected their interests and oversaw their marital relationships and was believed to grant them fertility and prosperity. So in ancient times, women would often pray to Juno for assistance in matters related to marriage and family life. So if you're somebody who identifies as like a wife or a mother, this can definitely be somebody who you can call on right now for some guidance and assistance, and likely she'll be bringing a little bit of extra sweetness to you with that conjunction to Venus. Now, Venus is generally what qualities we find attractive in a partner, right? It's how we approach love. It's also our social interactions in general because of Venus's connection to Libra. But like I said, Juno is going to be more about commitment and partnerships dynamic and the balance within relationships. So while both Venus and Juno contribute to a holistic understanding of a person's love and romantic inclinations, I really feel like this particular conjunction is bringing opportunities for Venus to work with Juno to bring in more opportunities for affection, to bring in more serious committed relationships, to allow us to kind of fall into alignment with the right people. So those of you guys who are single and looking to mingle, looking to meet others, this next month is going to be prime time for that. As I film this video, actually, Venus, Juno, and the moon are all in conjunction. So maybe you've been feeling this kind of playing out really since yesterday. But this particular conjunction between Venus and Juno is actually going to take place from September 8th all the way through October the 6th. So we're going to see them moving side by side, and I'll show you guys how, when I move the chart in a second. But this is Venus right here. Here is Juno, and this is getting activated from the moon. So I decided to make this video yesterday while this conjunction was taking place. Really interesting also that the conjunction is happening right around that, 14, 15 degrees of Leo. So that is really prominent in all of the fixed signs. This represents the halfway point through the seasons. So whenever we see 15 degrees of the fixed signs getting activated, the wheel of the chart turns and it actually puts the pressure for us to move forward. Now, in particular, squares, obviously, we know can be a little challenging, right? So we've seen throughout the Venus retrograde, Venus has been backtracking, kind of reworking, reevaluating what hasn't been working in relationships, or when it comes to our values, our finances, or our personal style. We're still in the midst of that final square, so you guys are probably feeling it pretty intensely right now. But I actually feel like this square can be positive, right? Jupiter and Uranus makes things big and exciting. Even if there's been some shakeups, likely it's leading to new and exciting opportunities and relationships. And these two particular goddesses working in union, I think is an amazing time to be really focusing on what we can achieve together. Now, Venus is in a sign that's more so connected to romance, although we could look at this as your opportunity to creatively collaborate, to spend time with children, to create with younger people. That definitely can come up as well. So if you're somebody who's not really looking for a romantic connection, there are still ways for Venus and Juno to kind of benefit you. But in particular, when I think of this conjunction taking place in the fixed fire sign of Leo, I do think about passionate love and commitment. Because Venus is in Leo and it has a natural inclination towards passionate and dramatic expressions of love. And the conjunction to Juno really focuses on a strong desire for committed romantic partnerships. So we might be feeling like we're seeking relationships that are intense and vibrant, filled with love and affection. And we may be putting more importance on expressing our love in a much more flamboyant, kind of over-the-top way, right? Jupiter square Venus has definitely been like extra sweet, extra everything, extra spending, but also there's been opportunities for huge breakthroughs when it comes to what the heart wants. I think this can also bring opportunities for romantic idealism because, the squares to Jupiter can bring that out. But the conjunction between these two goddesses can indicate a tendency for us to idealize and have high expectation in love and partnerships. Now, we might be feeling like we're seeking partners that love and adore us, but also validate our sense of self-worth. That's really what this Jupiter retrograde is about right now. We're reevaluating, how we feel when it comes to our personal self-esteem, our resources, our values. So as these two move together and they come into this square with Jupiter, we're feeling like we don't want to just be adored. We also want to be appreciated for what we bring to the table. There's going to be, I think, quite a desire for grand sweeping gestures of affection and admiration for sure. And maybe you've been feeling this the last couple of days. So enjoy the sweetness until the square kind of starts to fade. But with that Jupiter square and any placements in Leo, obviously always comes a bit of drama in partnerships. Because Leo is associated with drama and self-expression, and with Venus and Juno being in this sign, I think that there can be a really dramatic and theatrical kind of feel that can come when we're talking about relationships or commitment. It also might bring about situations where there is more of a need for dramatic displays of affection and appreciation. So some of us might be feeling a little bit more touchy-feely or be feeling like we need more of that kind of public admiration. I like this for creative, collaboration, because I think that Venus brings in the beauty and Juno brings in a sense of wanting to collaborate and assist other people. So if you're somebody who is in the business of artistic pursuits or fashion, design, this might be an amazing time to be creating and collaborating with others, or to be working with, with clients, especially if you're like somebody who's reworking like wardrobes, or you're trying to kind of help somebody spruce up a website. They can bring lots of opportunity to kind of bring your aesthetic sensibility into focus. I like this also for like leadership and relationships, because Leo is a natural leader. It's about kind of taking something on and being the person who's like the main leading role in a relationship, especially with Venus being there. So many of us might be feeling like we want to take control and have a say in the direction of the dynamics of our relationships right now. Now, this could be with lovers, right? Because Leo could be lovers. It could be children. It could also be with our creative collaborators. And I think that it's important, because we're experiencing a square, which brings some kind of pressure in these matters, to strike a balance between asserting our leadership and allowing our partner to have a say. So much about Juno's mythology is about being able to stay committed and being flexible and being understanding, sometimes to a fault, right? But I think to some extent what the Venus retrograde has been teaching us is that the right relationships will remain as long as we're learning to find the middle ground with other people. And obviously loyalty and devotion, right? That's a huge theme with Juno, because Juno continued to stay with Jupiter throughout all of their drama. And Leo is definitely known for being loyal and devoted deeply to their partnerships. And so I think this conjunction between Venus and Juno is really talking about our values and our qualities in relationship. And it's about us being deeply committed and loyal to our partners, and in turn expecting the same. Now, squares definitely have this energy where there is friction and there is tension. So it can create situations that really put some of these themes on, like the front stage right in front of us. And I think it's going to be for a lot of women, or, people who identify as women, or, wives especially, maybe girlfriends. We could see that coming through with Venus in Leo, putting the pressure and saying that, they want to feel valued. They want to feel like somebody's committing to them, that they're, going the distance. As Venus is coming out of the sign, and she's going to be heading into Virgo, where she's going to be in her fall, she's going to make some oppositions to Saturn and Neptune. I could definitely see like the weeks ahead being a significant turning point for people who want to take the next steps in relationship. So if you feel like you've been going back and forth with somebody for the last few months, you might be kind of feeling like, okay, it's time now to see, are they taking the next step? Are they valuing me? Is there physical kind of growth and change in this relationship? Do they see what I bring to the table? So it'll be interesting to see Venus go through her gauntlet. One more square to Uranus where things kind of get shaken up, some oppositions in Pisces, and then eventually she's going to move into her home sign of Libra, where she will eventually meet a conjunction to the South Node. Now, there's a handful of reasons why we're seeing karmic stuff playing out. I think part of it is also We've got the North Node ruler Mars in Libra right now, heading towards a conjunction with the South Node. So in a way, it's almost like in order for us to go further into our destined future, North Node in Aries, we are having to kind of cut ties with relationships that are out of balance, that aren't giving us what we need, that isn't allowing us to kind of be our most authentic selves. So for some of you guys, you might be kind of feeling the effects of the aftermath of what's been some really difficult relationship dynamics for the last few months. And I think it's possibly like clearing everything out in preparation to bring people in who are going to be like taking on the next leg of the relationship journey. When eclipses happen, there's really significant things that kind of come about in our life. I kind of call it like the cosmic, like washing machine. Everything kind of gets like flushed out. We have a solar eclipse that brings new opportunities. In this case, it's going to be near the South Node. So those new opportunities come from clearing stuff out. And then we're going to have a lunar eclipse, which is going to be a complete emotional, completion and decision. Anyway, endings and beginnings happen during eclipse season. So as we're approaching October, there's definitely going to be a lot of endings and beginnings. I think a large number of people are sitting with and reflecting on what hasn't been working in relationships and where they haven't felt valued and where they're needing to really pour more into themselves and focusing on loving themselves in order to bring in the right kind of person. And I think the North Node Chiron in Aries has been also really driving home the fact that it's almost better to be alone than to feel alone, to be in relationships where we don't feel respected, we don't feel that there's a balance, and perhaps in for the wrong reasons. So the North Node in Aries is really going to be encouraging individuals to go at it alone, to do the healing, to be able to be the version of yourself that you need to be so you can be complete in a union. Now, like I said, Juno is the wife, but Jupiter is the husband. So as we see this continuing square taking place between Venus and Jupiter, it can quite literally be as above, so below. Friction in the skies between a husband and wife can bring that here on Earth for us mortals. And like I said, a square indicates tension and challenges. There may be some conflicts or issues to work through in partnerships. And here's a few ways that it may manifest. Now, in particular, in the signs of Leo and Taurus, keep in mind, they are fixed. They do not want to change. And Venus is the dispositor for both Jupiter and Uranus. So thankfully, these two are retrograde. So these growing tensions and unexpected situations that have been coming about in regards to money and values and finances, they're going to slow down a little bit now. But Venus being in the square is still kind of echoing this theme of being like, okay, our values are changing, our finances are changing. And for some people, it's been some difficult changes that have been going on. I have thought for some time that the South Node in Libra is going to be kind of peeling back all the superficial layers in relationships. If we are experiencing some really significant financial or economic changes, and we're not prioritizing all of the bells and the whistles and all of the extra kind of aesthetic things that we have in our lives, do we still feel beautiful? Do we still feel valued in relationships? Are we going to stick out those relationships if our significant other doesn't have a job and can't take us on fancy vacations and buy us, all of these things? When all of that falls apart, do we know that we have a true relationship with somebody who loves us for who we really are and values what we bring to the table? So I think in situations like this ongoing square, we're going to see what relationships are really made of. And that also means, karmically speaking, that if we're at a time where we really need somebody to show up, right? At least in my perspective, soulmates, you can have soulmates that can be, siblings, it can be best friends, it could be coworkers, it could be a pet. But soulmates come in because we have an arrangement or an agreement that they're going to show up and they're going to help us through a particular leg in our life. They're maybe repaying us from a past life. Maybe we have agreed to reincarnate and find each other again, whatever you believe in. But they're coming in now to help us with this next leg. Now, if you're somebody who feels like you're already with your soulmate, you're already, committed to them, or they're your business partner, or it's your pet, or it's your spouse, then likely you're going to see that there are still some tests in these relationships that are going on with this square. Now, I think that this is going to be about finding that there's conflict between expansiveness and fixedness. Jupiter in Taurus wants to expand, although it is moving through a pretty practical sign, right? And then Venus going through Leo wants to do things big and loud. So because Jupiter represents expansion and growth and abundance, Taurus wants to be fixed and practical. Juno in Leo and Venus in Leo is about dramatic, passionate, attention-grabbing relationships. So the square aspect between these two placements represents our desire for expansive and adventurous relationships and your partner's preference for stability and security. So it could literally manifest as one person being like, we're going to go ham and we're going to, spend money on this and we're going to indulge in that and we're going to do this. And then somebody else being like, no, we need to be conservative. We need to be thinking long term. We need to be more grounded, more practical. Bringing up this clash of values between what we feel like we need for all of like the love and the romance and the pizzazz versus what we really should be doing to be a little bit more so grounded and conservative and practical, right? Natural, kind of getting back down to basics, Taurus. Something I'm going to talk about a lot in my webinar video that I'm going to be, my webinar that I'm going to be doing this Sunday is the importance of Venus throughout these next two eclipses, because they're both going to be eclipses that are ruled by Venus. And Venus will be moving into Virgo, which is going to be about servitude. It's going to be about making things make sense. It's going to be about practicality. So I think a lot of people are going to have some harsh reality checks when it comes to their relationships and their finances, and we're really going to start to see what our relationships are made of. So I anticipate that this is also part of the aftermath of this ongoing square between these placements. Financial and material differences, obviously, because Taurus is associated with financial security and material abundance, while Juno in Leo seeks a partner who values grand gestures, romance, extravagance. So conflict, right, the square, can arise from one partner wanting to spend while the other wants to save in long-term security. But this could also be somebody who's valuing, physical material goods. And something I found myself talking to my clients a lot the last couple of months about has been about your love language and identifying what your love language is versus your partner's love language. So quality time, physical touch, words of affirmation, services. I don't know, I'm sure I'm missing one or two, but knowing the difference. And a lot of that really breaks down to also understanding your Venus and your Mars placement. And let's say, you need physical touch to feel love. You need that hug, you need the petting, right? You need the physical connection. And you don't realize that your partner doesn't really receive love in that way. So you're kind of heavy petting and they're like, ugh, leave me alone, when really they want a gift or they need some some quality time together. Understanding what your partner needs to feel loved versus what you need to feel loved is really important. And I think this can be coming up for a lot of people right now, where some people would be totally satisfied with just, spending quality time together, unplugged, maybe going for a walk or spending time, out in nature, or, going out together and not having any interrupted time with electronics, versus somebody else who would want, their partner to show up with the big teddy bear and the roses and the chocolates and, all of the grandiose things. We are going to see that some of the conflicts that are coming out in relationships right now are quite literally tied to people not understanding people's love languages. And for some of us, it's recognizing that we're not being loved the way that we need to be loved, that we're not loving ourselves the way that we need to be loving ourselves, and working ourselves out of relationship dynamics where we know that we're not getting the love that we deserve. So I think that'll come up. That goes hand in hand with, I think, the differing values. Because these two placements are in fixed signs, there definitely can be some stubbornness and some resistance to change. And I think it's also priorities. Priorities are a big thing when we look at these two particular signs. Some of you guys might be really focusing on, taking your time and taking it easy and really seeing something through and making sure you have a quality connection, Taurus, versus Leo, which is fire. So it's like, let's move quickly, let's do this, let's do that. And some people might realize that somebody's wanting to move a little bit faster than we want to move, and where we're comfortable moving before we're ready to kind of commit. And there can be some sparks that can kind of come up because people are not necessarily on the same level when it comes to commitment, and like maybe even like time frames. And then obviously, squares give us the opportunity for growth. So I think with these squares, obviously there's challenges, but it gives us the opportunity to really focus on personal development. And these challenges can motivate us to find creative solutions in relationships and broaden our understanding of love, commitment, and partnership. In order to do that, we have to communicate, right? We have to find ways to compromise to navigate this particular challenge of this square. So effective communication and compromise are essential to be able to make relationships work, because both you and your partner need to find a common ground when it comes to adapting to each other's needs and desires, learning to balance your need for stability and security while finding time for desire and passion. This will be crucial. Now, this is going to be felt the most by Leo placement. So if you have any personal placements between 12 and 29 degrees of Leo, this is going to be affecting you the most. Sun, moon, rising, if you have a Mars, a Venus, a North Node, a Juno, this is really significant. Like I said, I work a lot with like Venus and Juno aspects. So when I see transits that kind of trigger a natal Juno or a natal Venus, it can be what I call a Cinderella transit, and it can be a time period where significant relationships kind of come together. We might meet people, or there's some significant phase that's kind of, going on in an existing relationship that's bringing about themes of commitment. Equally, the fixed signs will be feeling this pretty strongly as well, 12 to 29 degrees. And if you happen to be somebody who is a Taurus or a Libra rising, you will be feeling this also, because Venus is your ruler. But in my opinion, outside of that, the signs that are really going to be feeling this, because when I think about relationships and commitment, I think of like the 5th house. So that's going to be Aries rising. This conjunction is taking place in your 5th house, the same house as the Venus retrograde. Aquarius rising, because this is going to be going through your 10th house, which deals with your public status. So you're going to see that this Venus connection to Juno means you might meet somebody at work. It means that you might have a new business partner. You might have a new connection with like a client or somebody that can be really prominent. And also my Scorpio risings, because this is going to be taking place. Oh, excuse me. Let me backtrack. I'm reading this the wrong way. Aries is going to be 5th house. Aquarius is going to be 7th house. So you're going to see this conjunction taking place in your 7th house of relationships. So maybe there's been a back and forth that's been going on for you, Aquarius, with a relationship. Some of you guys have been deciding whether or not you're taking the next steps. You've been deciding whether or not you're going to commit to each other. I've seen some Aquarius risings that have been in preparation for planning to move in with somebody, planning to get engaged, planning to get married. So this conjunction can be talking about now moving forward with those commitments. And then my Scorpio risings, because Leo is in your 10th house, you're going to see that this is going to be taking place in your 10th house of career. So if you're single, clients, working with other people, establishing a new status in the world, finally maybe making a decision about being like, are we taking this to the next level? Are we going to be official? If you're single and you're a Scorpio rising, it might be that you meet somebody at work or through some change in regards to your career. It can kind of align you with more opportunities for partnership. I know some Scorpio risings, you've been dealing with the Jupiter-Uranus transit in your 7th house. So it can mean that if there's been a change in a relationship status, now you're identifying differently out in the world. So part of that Venus-Juno can mean that you're like, yeah, I'm letting people know in a public way, like I'm single and I'm ready to mingle. So it really depends on your personal astrology. But Aries, Aquarius, and Scorpio risings, these particular transits are going through houses that are going to be more connected, more so to relationships. Now, more on this particular square, I kind of sat with this for a little bit and I was like, yeah, difficult times can bring out the best or the worst in relationships, right? Because in some cases you can see that, this brings out that high and mighty side of Jupiter, where there can be some arrogance or some people that are really, fixated on their own personal needs and their own personal beliefs and their own need for pleasure or even freedom, because Jupiter in Taurus is going to go after whatever is going to kind of feel good. Like I said, thankfully, this is retrograde. Uranus is retrograde as well. So that energy is a little bit calmer. But when I think about like the ongoing squares, the clients that I've spoken to all summer long, some of the relationship challenges I've seen like friends and other people kind of go through, and my own experiences, it made me realize like some relationships can come out the other side of this transit and learn a lot more about their partner and actually learn how to partner better, because that friction puts you in a situation of having to learn how to kind of like, meet somebody else in the middle. But difficult times can mean that it can help us find a breakthrough. So if you've been in a relationship that hasn't been working for a little bit, as you're coming out of this square, you might realize like there is somebody out there for me, right? And maybe it's going to take some time before I'm ready to find that person, or I need to work on some things. Some of you guys have realized that also after an extended period of time alone, you're really starting to value the idea of having a partner. I've definitely heard a handful of stories of people who have been reluctant to commit. They've been habitually single, or they've been burned in the past, and they've gone through a series of some challenges in this last few months, making them realize that they really could use some support in a partnership. So this has brought them around to the idea of commitment. But when I think about difficult times and the opportunities that it gives us to work through things and really realize who our true partners are, I think that really what came up for me is that where we have shared challenges, it gives us the opportunity to foster bonding. Because when couples face adversity together, it creates a sense of unity and shared purpose. So overcoming challenges can strengthen our emotional connection between one another, and help us focus on working together to find solutions to provide support for one another. And that's really what I think the Juno-Jupiter square is about, being able to realize like, look, we're both in a situation, we're in this together. How can we better support each other through this? It kind of reminds me of like fight or flight. It's like until those situations happen, you don't really know if your teammate is really kind of built for that relationship in the long term. But in these situations, we start to kind of find out. Obviously, enhanced communication, right? Kind of difficult right now. Mercury's retrograde and it's getting ready to station. But difficult times require more open and effective communication. Couples may find themselves discussing feelings, concerns, and needs more open during challenging periods. Improved communication can lead to a deeper understanding of each other and better conflict resolution skills. You ever want to test your relationship? Go to an escape room, okay? Like, that's something that taught me a lot about communication in relationships. I've lived in LA for like 15 years, and that was like a craze for a while, and I never really did it until this last year, and I went to do it locally in Las Vegas, and I just thought it would be something that would be kind of like spooky and kind of fun, but it made me realize when you're in that situation where the clock is counting down, you quickly have to move from one thing to another. You have to be turning the room over looking for clues. You have to be communicating before, actors are kind of getting involved or the pressure is put on you before you potentially run out of time. And having to, stand in separate sides of the room and turn off switches and read things to each other and try to crack codes. It made me realize like then there could be some communication issues in a relationship, and you learn how different people respond to things under pressure. But I think that really similar to, where there's been pressure from this square, it's been teaching people that maybe it's pushing us to the point where we're having to kind of come out with our truest needs and desires, where we're needing to kind of break free and we need more freedom, or where we're finally coming to terms with what our non-negotiables are when it comes to relationships. Obviously, appreciation too. Heard a lot of this over the last couple of weeks with friends and also clients. People having more appreciation for partners as a result of some of these challenging transits. Obviously, adversity can remind couples of the value of their partnership. When facing difficulties, people often realize how much they rely on their partners for support, love, and companionship. And it's highlighted appreciation that can be heightened appreciation that can lead to increased affection and gratitude. So, where there's pressure, we start to kind of feel like the walls are kind of caving in, and we're in a difficult situation where we're hurt, we're down and out, we're not feeling our best. We may see opportunities for relationships to kind of like raise us up and give us the support necessary and make us realize how important it is to have that person in our life, to have that partner, that best friend, that counselor, that therapist to support us in our time of need. Obviously, shared coping strategies came up for me as well because difficult situations require coping strategies. And I think it'll teach us to develop and refine these strategies together, which can create a sense of teamwork and shared problem solving. And I think also it strengthens the relationship, but it also teaches people where their coping strategies may not be the healthiest, and where we need to kind of open up a little bit more and like let other people in if we're used to kind of dealing with things on our own, or if we're used to leaning on a bad habit. It teaches us to open ourselves up to our partner and like let them know what's going on, and teaches us how to be vulnerable. Deeper emotional connection definitely can come from sharing these vulnerabilities with other people, and also finding support during these difficult times, I think can definitely create a profound emotional bond because of that vulnerability and like learning how to trust and finding that there's mutual understanding. Reevaluation of priorities. I think that comes with the Venus-Jupiter square, but I could see where in difficult times in a relationship, challenging circumstances can prompt individuals or, couples to reevaluate priorities in life. I found several times throughout this transit kind of being like, okay, I thought I wanted this and I'm realizing that's not important right now or anymore, or that can be put on the back burner. And there's definitely been a lot of me going back and forth with that with my partner and realizing that it's okay for there to be like a realignment right now, especially because Venus relates to, values and also relationships, and kind of going like, well, is this really important? What is the impact that it's going to have on the relationship if we do X, Y, and Z? And do we need to put that thing on the back burner to prioritize other things right now? I definitely see that, especially because that reevaluation of the priorities shows the other person that you're checked in, right? That you're taking them into consideration when you're making decisions, and it can foster stronger commitment to one another and feeling better supported. And then obviously, I think probably the biggest one has been overcoming differences. That's huge with the squares. Learning to put minor disagreements aside, focusing on larger shared goals. Especially in times of crisis, like differences that once seemed significant become less important, allowing us to find common ground and unity within our relationships, which is also allowing us to really find, opportunities for personal growth and self-discovery. So I think this has also been showing like where both parties, Jupiter and Venus. So if you're married or if you're in a relationship, you can be identifying as like, more of a masculine or a feminine role. And where there is a need to like really sometimes take time to focus on specifically your personal growth, which in turn can encourage somebody else to grow and develop. And it's going to lead to a healthier, more fulfilling relationship where you might be feeling like you're better defining who you are outside of the relationship, which is good because it's not allowing you to just kind of, meld into like one person. And obviously successfully navigating difficult times leads to a sense of confidence in the relationship's ability to endure future challenges. Couples who have weathered the storms together often feel more secure and capable of handling whatever comes their way, right? So I don't know, let me know, like, how have you been doing with these particular transits? Do you feel like you've been more struggling in a sense of trying to find the right person? Because I know there's a fair number of people that have been experiencing that have been like, I'm not willing to sacrifice. I'm not willing to, kind of give or lower my standards. I'm focusing on myself, working on myself until the right person comes in. And I definitely feel like that Venus-Juno conjunction can be, especially for like a lot of women, right? It can be a lot of, I'm married to myself. I'm dating myself right now. I've heard that term so much the last couple of months. I'm dating myself right now until I get my priorities in order, until I figure out, what I really want, until somebody comes in that shows me that they're worthy of me kind of opening up my life to them. Very Venus-Juno, right? Especially because Juno can quite literally be about commitment, and Venus can be about women. And the square to Jupiter is also where we've seen a lot of talk revolving around relationships and what it means to be in a stereotypical relationship, the nuclear family of having, mom and dad and then the kids, and where there has been some pushback and some resistance revolving around why, people get into relationships, and do they do it because of society's expectations I think of like, Taurus and like the Hierophant. And this friction that we've been seeing between Venus and the square to Jupiter and Uranus is where some women are breaking free from that stereotype of, well, I'm not, considered to be beautiful or valuable unless I'm wanted or unless I'm in a relationship, breaking away from that with the square and not feeling like they are valuing necessarily having to be in a committed relationship or having to be in a relationship with two people that identify as a man and a woman. We've seen a lot about the LGBTQ community that's come up throughout this square, and where people are kind of breaking with social norms when it comes to what it means to have children, Leo, what it means to be in a committed relationship. And I think we're going to continue to see more of that, especially as we get into the spring next year when Jupiter and Uranus collide. Now, it also can mean that on the level of like social connections, that some people are also realizing that their priorities are shifting, revolving around how they have fun. So I could see people with the Venus retrograde going, yeah, I'm not wanting to go out to the bar to meet people anymore. I'm not wanting to kind of, do it online anymore. Like, I'm trying to find new ways to connect with people. So that's another way that we could see this playing out. But basically the takeaway for me is that because Venus and Juno are moving side by side, soulmate opportunities are abound, okay? So there are people that are coming in right now. So if you feel like you're in limbo and you're like, I'm not in a relationship, but I'm open to somebody coming in, there's almost like a exchange of the soulmate guards happening at this moment. There's some people clocking out and some people that are getting ready to clock in, especially with Mars moving through the South Node, okay? So we're going to see this over the next couple of weeks. Mars is going to get closer and closer, and we're going to feel like on a personal level, we have to kind of either cut ties with certain people so we can bring the right people in, or there may be like a sense of recognizing people from the past or from past lives and being like, oh, hello, you're back here again. Watch for those growing pains in existing commitments, but for the better. So like I said, there's a whole laundry list of ways that we can actually grow together through relationship challenges. Expect that there can be some husband and wife quarrels, right? Venus conjunct Juno square Jupiter, where, like wives are starting to kind of tap in and kind of realize like, I need to have fun too. I need to do things too. It can't be all, you running out and doing things. Like I need romance. I need adventure as well. So husband and wife quarrels can come up, but it can also be over resources. It can be over kids. It can be over differences of values. But there's no real news here. I think any married couple will tell you that those things do come up on a regular basis, but you learn to compromise. And I think that whether you are single, you're in a committed relationship, you're looking for somebody, you're not looking for somebody, maybe this is more about your relationship that you have with business partners or creative collaborators. The focus right now is on compromise. We have to compromise. We have to find that middle ground to be able to say, you know what, we're willing to overlook some of the petty stuff, some of the conflicts, some of the arguments. Let's put it aside. Let's not crash the relationship because of these things. Let's find ways to come together, especially as we're coming into eclipse season, because we're going to find that there is going to be some things that are going to send us for a bit of a loop. And we're really going to be in a place, I think, of appreciating who we have to support us through that time. Watch for the opportunities to clear out past relationship karma, okay? So if you're still going through that right now, if you're trying to forgive someone, if you're trying to cut ties, you're trying to heal, know that this conjunction that's taking place for the next month is a pretty significant window for you to be able to bring the right person in. And many people don't realize when you're manifesting or you're setting intentions or you're calling something in, generally there is like a tower moment. Like you have to kind of bring the bulldozer in to kind of clear everything away before that intention can come through. People don't realize that when they're manifesting. They just assume if they sit there and they manifest something every day, it's just going to magically appear. But likely we have to play an active role in kind of excavating and clearing out all the crap and making space so that person can kind of come in. So there is opportunities to connect with karmic partners, but also to build healthier self-esteem, focusing on bringing in the love and the connection that we deserve. So like I said, you guys are going to see this connection pretty much between now, it started around the 8th, between now and October 6th. So as you guys are watching this, let's take this to the 12th. this is happening right around 13 and change, 14 degrees. But as we watch them move, right, they're going to keep kissing in the sky. So you're going to see them go 13, 14, 15 degrees. And they're going to keep moving. Looks like there's going to be a conjunction here. So they're going to conjunct at 18 degrees. They're going to conjunct at 19 degrees, 20, 21. They're moving side by side. And they don't really start to separate until the beginning of October. They'll really start to separate right around the 6th. Okay. And I was reading the degree that it's conjunct today. So I was reading technically 13 degrees. So I rounded up to 14, and I had bookmarked this because I was like, I have to read the Sabian symbol for this because it's so like appropriate. All right, so the Sabian symbol for Leo 14, the human soul awaiting an opportunity for expression. The theme is on the verge of experience. The symbol speaks to anticipation, to a childlike eagerness for a new experience. The focus here is on innocence and absence of mindset or prior conditioning. The image of a human soul waiting an opportunity for expression alludes to the readiness, alertness of naive expectation. At its highest, the symbol represents an intuitive gift for knowing the right time and the right place to act, a willingness to give whole self to any effort. Watch for fear of a new experience, a result of inability to think things through cleverly or boredom. The accent is on anticipation. You may find yourself standing back, waiting for the right time to get involved or show someone what you can do. Your greatest advantage lies in knowing when to act, use your intuition, and be alert to the signature of when it tells you it's time to make your move. Guard against procrastinating or missing your chance because you're afraid to make a decision. Don't hide your light under a bushel too long. Stepping stones are expectation, anticipation, aspiration, promise, experience, sensitivity, openness, trust, innocence. I think for a lot of people, it's trusting what your heart's telling you, trusting that you know that something better is coming, trusting that everything is going to work out, right? Trusting yourself. But let me know, leaving your comments below. Obviously, I always appreciate your guys' likes, your comments, and your shares. I'm hoping that this is like a really positive period for you guys the next couple of weeks, where those of you guys who are really ready to align yourself with the right partnerships or to better connect to existing partnerships, that you're able to do so and continue to grow in love. As always, thank you guys. I appreciate your support. If you guys like my content, you want to see more of it, make sure you're subscribed. Do consider joining my webinar that I'm going to have this Sunday. I'm doing an eclipse webinar for the fall eclipses that will be taking place in October. Click the links below if you want to go to my website. You guys can take a look at that webinar link. I also have bookings available for personal one-on-one sessions and all of my tarot and astrology courses. That's all from me. I'll see you guys back here on Thursday. We're going to talk all about this impending next lunar transit. I know we're kind of on the heels right now of this new moon in Virgo, but I will see all of you guys back here on Thursday. So until next time, I'll see you all very soon. Take care.